Kingdra going to rip off the Swift, forcing our Protect Shield back. We then farm up, bank the Swift, make the pivot into Ledian and look to bait out any potential Fire type exit. It doesn't do much of anything, and right on cue, a Fire type enters the field of play and team once again working as intended. We're taking massive super effective damage from these Incinerators, but Dynamic Punch also super effective. Opponent looks to incinerate, farm down. Ledian says no, reach the next Dynamic Punch, leaving him on fractional HP. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking our first look at the Summer Cup, and oh boy, do I have news for you. This is not a drill. Shadow Ledian is finally good, and let me tell you, in this cup it is very fucking good indeed. For those of you that have been around the channel for a while, you know I've tried to make this Pokemon work time and time again. It's always been bloody terrible. However, having Rollout and Acrobatics, it is finally the Pokemon I knew it could always be. It's got two very good, very efficient charge moves in Dynamic Punch and Acrobatics respectively. Rollout generates energy very quickly, and it's got a very good stat product. Ledian's role on the team today is going to be on the safe switch position, a double bug strategy. Whilst we are weak to fire, the back Pokemon is double weak to fire, so ideally we'd like to bait it out to keep Forretress far away. Covering the bug's weaknesses, we're going to have Kingdra with double resistance to fire. Nice and simple, at least that's the theory. Does it work? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game one, we lead Shadow Kingdra into Furret, a type neutral matchup, and as I'm on an Outrage, we could actually win this in the zero shield scenario. However, as I'm on an ABB team, I'm going to stick to the strategy pivot into Ledian and look to bait out any potential fire type. Right on cue, Turtonator enters the arena. Ledian going to unleash the Dynamic Punch, able to force a Protect Shield. We're going to fire off the Acrobatics and look to do maximum damage. Ledian will not be denied. Acrobatics leaves a mark, rocking them deep into the red health. Oof, my boy Ledian out here putting an absolute shift on the safe switch. Not only forcing the Protect Shield, doing almost all of Turtonate's HP. I send out Kingdra able to farm down. Furret re-enters the arena, looks to fire off some energy. We're going to tank the Brick Break, bank our energy, and make the pivot into Forretress. Hopefully the fire type out of the way, Forretress's path to victory should be clear. Just tap and nom all the way through the remaining HP. It's interesting the opponents opting to stay hidden, as clearly they've lost their Forretress counter, and I am off to the races. Forretress able to fully bug bite farm down, and holy smokes, I was not expecting to see another Ledian, but this game is over. Rock Tomb, double super effective. We're going to snipe down with a few Dragon Breaths, and just like that, your boy Jamie Finn over here is going to be off to a very quick 1-0 start. GG's, and thanks for playing. Heading into the next battle, we see Shadow Camerupt in the lead position. Another very cool, very spicy pick, and I'm very thankful to see it in the lead. Kingdra wastes no time, fires off the Swift, forcing the first protection of the game, and I'm just shielding whatever they throw. I don't give a shit, my backline is not seeing this threat. The opponent forces their Protect Shield back, make the pivot into Miltank. I bank a boatload of energy and then send out Forretress, hopefully on Ice Beam Body Slam. They're actually on Thunderbolt, but I'm essentially just throwing this thing away, recognising Forretress isn't going to have a great time against a Shadow Incinerate user. It's probably like 2 Incinerates and we're absolutely cooked. I'm sure some of you are going to be wondering, why am I not Rock Tomb in? As Rock Tomb would knock out and Sand Tomb would not. Well, that's intentional, as I'd rather farm the opponent down rather than concede farm myself. So we're going to let the opponent take me out, send back out Kingdra, recognise Camerupt cannot return, and this essentially gives me a free shot at outraging whatever's in the back. The question is, does the opponent respect the damage? Much to my disappointment they do, but we make the catch and the sneak, and as soon as I sneak, this game is over. This is actually my first time playing on the new system. You're going to see here that as I get to this Dynamic Punch on free rollouts, Dynamic Punch will be lethal, and I'm going to get refunded my health. And as soon as that happens, how are you going to take out Ledian Trainer? I'll answer for you. You're not. You're going to concede, and we're going to move swiftly on. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Kingdra into Shadow Kanto 9000, Shadow and Shadow Crime. We haven't got a Surf, not that it matters. They're probably going to shield a Swift, and if they don't, that works for me as I'll be left deep in the red. As expected, we're able to force the first protection of the game. This is likely an energy ball. I think you're a raving lunatic if you're going to fire off a double resisted charge move, especially one that isn't lethal. The opponent does fire off the energy ball, able to hang on, and out comes Furret. We're going to send out Ledian, and this is where Ledian really shines, especially when the opponent fires off a Brick Break. Not entirely sure on that play, unless of course they're on Brick Break and Trailblaze. We fire off the Dynamic Punch, a one-hit KO, get that Furret off my screen. When Ninetales re-enters the arena, one further rollout and the next Dynamic Punch is already locked and loaded. Once again, Shadow Ledian absolutely popping off. It's certainly done its job, but I'm enjoying using it. So we're going to invest the Protect Shield and go all in on our little bug. Out comes Man Team. We're going to reset our debuff, pivot into Kingdra and look to force the energy, and the opponent obliges, throw in the Twister. Twister, of course, an easy knockout, and this game is over. I imagine when I show him Forretress, the opponent should top left. Apparently not. Well, if the opponent wants that work, who am I not to give it to him? We can survive any one move, win con, really simple. Throw the Rock Tomb, the opponent can either shield or get knocked out. If they go for the shield option, we'll give the opponent that wham, bam, combo play, fire off the Acrobatics, and that is going to be all she wrote. Well, apparently I'm going to have to shield the incoming Twister, but you get the point. Acrobatics from this range, easily going to be lethal, and Ledian picks up yet another victim. GG's, and thanks for playing. On a side note, excuse my very noisy neighbour who apparently thinks now is the appropriate time to rev the motorbike despite it being like 8:30 at night. Heading into the next battle. Stay in school, kids, and learn to count. Your boy Jamie Finn out here catching a triple resisted mud bomb. You absolutely love to see it. The opponent opts to stay in, fire off an Aquatail. Aquatail, easily survival. Again, Ledian's bulk is absolutely absurd, especially for a Shadow. I anticipated Shadow and Shadow Crime. Dynamic Punch would put him into rollout farm down range, but it's very much a miscalculation. I guess what comes with being bulky is you don't hit as hard as you used to. It looks like the opponent not wishing to risk a potential rollout farm down pivot into Kecleon. We fire off the Dynamic Punch able to land, switch timers up, quick switch into Kingdra, and this is why we're on outrage. Who's going to shield from Kingdra? Hopefully not this opponent. Bang! There it is. Not quite a one-hit KO, but able to Dragon Breath farm down afterwards. The opponent gracefully shows me their third and then very quickly run for the hills. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, we see Ariados in the lead position. Once again, we're going to farm up, look to make the catch and the sneak onto Ledian. Ledian completely walls this energy. Well, I guess we should wall the energy. I'm anticipating them being on Lunge plus Trailblaze. They could, of course, run Cross Poison or potentially even Shadow Sneak. That would, of course, hit for neutral. It looks like my opponent, much like myself, very, very soft to fire. ABA weak to fire, in fact. They send that Electrode into my Ledian. And I think they make a mistake, to be honest. If I was them, I would have looked to knock me out before I forced the first Protect Shield in the mid-game matchup. They do make somewhat of amends, going for a slight undercharge and looking to get a bit more energy together. I'm more than happy to shield this up. Anticipating the wild charge, which they do. They then pivot back out into the Spider, and once again, we're able to catch out. Forretress with even more resistances than Ledian. The only way this Spider could hit us for neutral is if they have Shadow Sneak, and I highly doubt it. What the heck are you looking to Shadow Sneak in a meta full of normal types? Very interestingly, that opting for Cross Poison as second move, I guess it kind of makes sense. It is only 35 energy and incredibly spammy, taking only 4 Poison Stings apiece. I'm looking to switch out. Me and my opponent have the same idea. The opponent looks to snipe with an Incinerate. Trainer. All you're catching is that work. We force in the Outrage. Outrage, able to force the opponent's final Protect Shield. We're inevitably about to get debuffed, but is it going to matter? This is Shadow Kingdra we're talking about. Surf would be double super effective. Outrage only hits for neutral, but from Shadow Kingdra, have no doubt Outrage. Going to be a very clean one-hit KO. Switch timers back up, comes Electro. We give the opponent that wham, bam, combo play, serve up the Big Mac and the fries, and the opponent is very weirdly going to concede in the middle of my charge move. Honestly, what the fucking hell is going on with this new code? Very, very strange animation, but regardless, able to start with a perfect 5-0. Heading into the next battle. We see Gorgeist in the lead position. Of course, my backline doesn't want to see it. To be fair, Ledian wouldn't be too bad, but of course, if we can get Kingdra aligned or keep Kingdra aligned, that's what we're going to do. I imagine the opponent no-shield this, recognising they probably fully wall the moveset of Surf plus Swift, but to my surprise, they do invest the protection. I was hoping the opponent undertapped the Seed Bomb. They did not, and now Ledian gets absolutely rocked with the Shadow Ball. The opponent then sends out more P.E.K.K.A. I'm really hoping the opponent cannot Thundershock farm me down before the next Dynamic Punch is reached. The first Dynamic Punch forces a Protect Shield, and Ledian's bulk once again comes in clutch and does force some energy. The opponent revealed they're on Psychic Fang instead of Seed Bomb, which kind of makes my life difficult as we kind of find ourselves in the bait game. I believe they're at 9, or at least I think I counted 9. My counting, not as good as it used to be, but regardless, my giant testicles come in clutch again. We don't shield Psychic Fangs in this house on. I fire off the Swift. Quick switch into Forretress, which is somewhat of a questionable decision, as we know the Incinerate user will return. However, they are so low, we are going to be able to Bug Bite farm all the way down, and hopefully we can just debuff the shit out of whatever's in the back. Out comes Greninja. Greninja didn't appreciate the Bug Bites, they won't appreciate this Rock Tomb, and once again, this game looks completely over. My opponent will get the satisfaction of removing Forretress from the field of play, but it's a very simple tap, 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 tap like a lunatic, Dragon Breath farm the shit out of everything, and I will be emerging victorious. GG's that opponent. Heading into the next battle, we see Kleavor in the lead position, a Pokemon I don't think I've actually ever seen in battle, only when Callum uses it. Shout out the GOAT Callum on toast. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday as well, buddy. What you can see about this Pokemon, it is very bloody glassy. The Dragon Breaths tearing them apart, and Swift, despite being resisted, would probably knock out. I'm going to bank a Swift and look to catch the next X-Scissor onto Ledian, which is somewhat quite risky. As the opponent would have held their energy, we could have got Stone Edge to the face. Despite your boy Jamie Finn being very much a washed up potato, we still remember how to run an ABB team. We're very basic and team is working as intended. Time and time again, we're baiting out things that Forretress doesn't want to see, and Ledian putting on an absolute hurt in this safe switch position. Not only forcing a Protect Shield, but doing the majority of this very annoying Snail's HP. I'm actually able to send out Forretress to get the Bug Bite farm down. The opponent sends out Dunsparce. We both go for the switch at the same time. I'm able to Dragon Breath farm down Kleavor's remaining HP. Kingdra gonna fire off that Hail Mary. And the question, of course, is going to be, does the opponent respect the damage? Outrage is locked. It's loaded. They do not. They get one shot. And I take that game. In the next battle, we see the very annoying pesky Spider in the lead position. Unfortunately, that thing was released around the time I wasn't playing. I don't actually have a good one to build, much to my disappointment. Again, we say switch into Ledian, baiting out Licky, far too thicky. But this isn't actually a good matchup for the opponent, as they can't really do any meaningful damage with their charge moves, whereas we have that Hail Mary Dynamic Punch. Ledian does actually win this in the Zero Shield, especially if you get a one rollout running start. What I really love about the Ledian safe switch is not only do we bait out fire types, we also bait out all these normal types running rollout. Of course, we are double weak to the rock type. However, none of them can hit us for any meaningful damage, unless of course it's Dunsparce with Rock Slide. But we do outpace to that Dynamic Punch, especially if we switch first, and we're just able to put in so much work on the safe switch. However, returning to the commentary, rather than patting myself on the back for coming up with a very fun, unique team, the opponent give up switch, sending out Ariados, we send out Forretress, Forretress able to knock out. It's Quagsire in the back, but a two-shielded Kingdra looks absolutely unbeatable. The opponent likely going to look to make a catch. I'm going to keep farming up. There is the catch attempt. We're going to take no chances. Just look to remove him from the field of play with the Swift. Kingdra still with two shields to hide behind. And the opponent surely see the writing on the wall. Shout out home size Henry. We're going to fire off the Swift. Swift won't be lethal at this point. They're going to get Dragon Breath farmed down afterwards. The opponent recognises it. And we get to two shield flex. GG's that opponent. In the next battle, we see Feraligatr in the lead position. It's been a while since I've seen this thing. Kind of weird to think there's a meta where Feraligatr is allowed and it's not a top tier threat, and that is probably because it's using Shadow Claw and there are so many bloody normal types. However, very quickly you're about to see that Feraligatr is on my screen because I've clicked the wrong league like an absolute bloody potato. And out comes Primate. I was like, huh? What is that thing doing? But with two bug types, I do make the pivot into Ledian, and I'm bloody glad I did, as out comes Skeledirge. Until this season, this would be such a disastrous matchup for Ledian, but the rollout into Acrobatics combination, able to knock them out before they even get off a charge move. Ledian, my god, you've been a beast. And to be honest, it's still not done, because trainer, you sir, are going to have to Ice Punch. Rage Fist simply not going to cut it. We will reach another move, and we're going to force yet further energy, although they are now two-stage boosted. This is, of course, just going to be a fast move beatdown Bug Bite. It's supposed to be resisted. They don't look all that resisted. We've already got Primate down to around 40% HP. I'm going to pivot into Kingdra. Go for the the drill. That tap, 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 tap. I'm so bloody good at this game. Fast move beat him all the way down and take that game. In the next battle, we see Quagsire in the lead position, of course. I'm going to look to catch the Mud Bomb, but here I actually overtap. I should have thrown 9 Dragon Breaths instead of 10, so I would have been able to sneak a rollout. Unfortunately, I did not, but we are still able to make a very, very nice triple resisted Mud Bomb catch. For the second consecutive game, we see a Skeledirge enter the arena, and not sneaking that rollout means they're able to outpace. We'll actually pace at the same speed. And I'm about 99.99 reoccurring % sure that we'd lose CMP, as we are bloody bulky. And I don't think Ledian actually wins very many CMP ties whatsoever. This is one of the few battles where Ledian puts in a pathetic performance on the save switch, but that's definitely down to user error, aka me being crap at this game nowadays, as opposed to Ledian not being good. Sorry buddy, I let you down. And not forcing that protect shield or just cleanly winning the mid-game matchup kind of puts me in a problematic spot, especially as the opponent's bloody 2-shield on this very annoying alligator. The opponent then gives up switch, and another thing I don't like about the code, or the new code I should say, is the visuals are so scuffed. I've watched this back like 4 times, and I only count 3 rollouts. I was thinking, I caught the body slam, how the fuck did it get shadow balled? Not entirely sure, to be honest. I guess I'm just going to take some getting used to. I know a lot of people play with sounds, and perhaps as much as I hate the sound of this game, I'm going to have to do so. So at least you can hear the fast move, as opposed to just looking for the visual animation. Unfortunately for me, the opponent has managed their energy really well, and this one is going to end in somewhat of heartbreaking defeat. Kind of user error, kind of a bit of a shit game. It is what it is, you can't win them all. GG's to that opponent. In the next battle, we see Craigdilly in the lead position. Somewhat of a neutral matchup, but on Outrage, I'd say very, very favourable for Kingdra, because trust me, if this goes unshielded, Craigdilly, you sir might think you're thick, but clearly not thick enough. That is almost a one-hit KO, and this is the easiest shield of my GBL career. We'll keep our A-type nice and healthy in case they've got a fire type. Quick switch into Ledian, we get the perfect rollout farm down. Unlike the last battle, this one seems to go in very, very nicely. Of all the things to switch in, behind an energy into Ledian, a steel type isn't the thing you're looking for. The opponent shows absolutely no respect to the Dynamic Punch, and Ledian looking primed to sweep. Do 3 rollouts knock out? Unfortunately, they do not, so I'm going to fire off the Dynamic Punch and look to remove the Steel Penguin from the field of play. The opponent invests the Protect Shield, revealing they must be weak in the back, so we'll make the catch onto Forretress, and then start just debuffing the absolute shit out of the third. Out comes Ferret, and unfortunately for my opponent, this game is completely over. Despite Ferret being a top meta pick on all the basic meta bitches at PvP rosters, it is not a Pokemon that is going to 1v3 any team, certainly not my oppressive triple shadow team. They're barely able to remove Forretress. Kingdra going to come for the glory stint once again, being super skillful, going for that tap, 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 breath, 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 fast move beatdown, and I take that game. In the next battle, this time we see Licky far too thicky in the lead position. I was thinking, what the heck is going on? Again, super bloody scuffed on the animation. I'm not sure if they're lagging, because then the rollouts ended coming really quick, or it's just some kind of visual glitch. Honestly, this new code is bloody horrendous. It's like people knew I was running Outrage. Another Outrage bounced off the Protect Shield. The opponent shielded one of the bulkiest one in the format. Holy, but speaking of shields, Walrein didn't respect the Dynamic Punch, and that is almost a one-hit KO. I'm able to roll out farm down if Licky does return, even if they falls in the Shadow Ball, which I expect them to do. They're simply not going to cut it. Ledian absorbs the damage, able to reach the Dynamic Punch, and should be forcing our Protect Shield back. Once again, Ledian putting in so much work. I'll make the team read that the opponent doesn't have a fire type, so we do make the pivot into Forretress. The opponent fires off the Shadow Ball and then send out Poliwrath. By no means a good matchup. Not the worst though. We are going to be able to debuff and the opponent should be forced to throw. I'm really hoping they can't fully counter farm me down. Oh fuck. Send help. I need an adult. I am in big trouble. We're going to need to make a catch to win this battle and try and absorb some of this Poliwrath energy. But ask and you shall receive, and we get ourselves back in the game. Ledian, been the MVP this time, is the third shield. All I've got to do is shield this up. When Licky comes in, fire off the Outrage, and it's GG's and thanks for playing. Do I do that? No. Why? I don't know, to be honest. I have no idea what happened there. I think I was distracted by my puppy. Not that she's a puppy. She's a 9-year-old dog, but let's be honest, she's far cuter, and I'd much rather give her attention rather than this shitty new game code. It is awful. I was, of course, playing the Competitors Cup. However, I wanted to play Summer Cups. This is the first time I've played on this new code, and I'll be honest, I've got absolutely no idea what's going on most of the time. I don't think it's particularly smooth to watch either. I watched Callum stream earlier, and honestly, I had no idea what was bloody going on most of the time. And here, why would you bait? Honestly, you threw a double resisted move at my bloody Kingdra. I tried to get smart, tried to make a catch, and neither worked out for me. I thought my Ledian would be free with a fire type in the front, but this mad lad is running ABA fire. Are you serious? However, as we're able to force both Protect Shield, Forretress is going to avoid both of them fire types. Here again, the visuals are crazy. What the hell is that? How did I start halfway through a charge move? I was like, what's going on? But thankfully, we're able to knock out Gorgeist. The opponent sends out Craigdilly. I send out Forretress, the opponent finally pivots into Ninetales, but it's simply too little too late. Forretress fires off the Sand Tomb, able to knock out, and you know the drill. Tap, 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 tap. Faster would beat him all the way down, the opponent playing out to the very bitter end. The opponent fire off the Rock Tomb, one is survival, they're able to reach one more. Quickest path to victory, just shield, go for the super effective Bug Bites, and we're going to take that game. In the next battle, we see Dunsparce in the lead position. Earlier I said that Ledian pretty good into normal types outside of Dunsparce, as Rockside would be double super effective. But as soon as I saw it, I thought, do you know what, we're going to go for the triple resisted drill run catch because I'm a mad lad. Well, actually, we might not need to. As we full send the outrage, bang, there it is. Unfortunately, we're not able to make it a super smart catch. We're able to get the one hit KO. Once again, we pivot into Ledian. And again, it is paramount that I did as we bait out Gourgeist. Clearly my opponent needs some help with learning their typings. They throw a Seed Bomb, which is double resisted as both Bug and Flying do resist Grass. We full send the Acrobatics, we're able to reach yet another Acrobatics and ball very much in the opponent's court. Very annoyingly, the opponent double shield Gourgeist. Rather than concede yet more farm, we pivot into Kingdra. I look to reach the outrage, but just about get outpaced, which is brutal. I now find myself with no shield to hide behind. I could have overfarmed there, but I didn't want Gourgeist to remain alive, as of course I've got something double weak to fire in the back. I'm forced to full send an outrage. Out comes Jellicent. The opponent is going to fire for charge move just before we're able to reach the next outrage, and this is not looking like a good spot for me. Forretress running Bug Bite. Not a good matchup whatsoever. I go for the catch as well. Catch attempt unsuccessful. Ledian able to reach the Acrobatics. Acrobatics hits hard. Not hard enough. We get fully Hex Farm down. High risk, high reward stuff, but unfortunately this one is going to end in very heartbreaking defeat. I actually went 21-4 with the team. I think I've kept all the losses in, and to be honest, I think most of them are definitely games that were winnable, but it is what it is. In the next battle, we see Shadow Charizard in the lead position. As they're on Dragon Breath, we make the pivot into Ledian. Here, I am going to invest the Protect Shield. We get baited with the Air Cutter, which is absolutely brutal. And they boosted. Oh well, fuck it. We'll just go all in on Ledian. Ledian's the MVP, and I'm very, very glad I did. It's never good to go down 2 Protect Shields this early in the battle, but clearly the opponent has no answer. We fire the first Dynamic Punch, go for one Rollout and the next Dynamic Punch. The opponent read me like a book, catch onto a Rangaroo. Nice catch, trainer, but meet your worst nightmare, as this is going to end in an RPS victory for me. This monkey is usually so bloody annoying, but Fortress is one of its very hardest counters. The Bug Bites did absurd damage. Furret re-enters the arena, but they're going to be permanently debuffed. We fire off the Sand Tomb. The Bug Bite is going to start tearing through the HP, and we're not even in Brick Break range either. The opponent does reach the Brick Break. We reach yet another Sand Tomb, and this is literally rubbing salt in the opponent's wounds. Sand Tomb forced to Protect Shield. I could go to either Pokemon. I decide I'm going to win the battle with Ledian. The opponent once again going to be unable to move Ledian from the field of play. They fire off the Swift. Ledian withstands the damage, reaches the Dynamic Punch, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's that opponent. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's video. I did actually have 3 further battles that I was going to shoutcast. They were all wins, and people always moan I don't show my losses. So today you got more losses rather than me showing loads of wins. And to be honest, I'm really hungry and I want to go make some dinner. With all that being said, if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button if you're new. Consider subscribing if you like your battles featured on my channel. A link to our battle submission form is down below. And for those of you wondering, I'm going to have some chicken shawarma. See you in the next one.